The diplomatic ship moved slowly through space toward the purple planet. G1 pressed his face against the cold window and stared at Valdara Prime. He had never seen anything so beautiful. The planet glowed with soft purple light, and 3 moons hung in the black sky around it. Crystal buildings covered the surface like a forest made of diamonds. G1 was 28 years old and worked as an engineer. He fixed machines and kept communication systems running. This was his first time meeting the Valdari aliens. He felt nervous and excited at the same time. Ambassador Hyejin walked up behind him. She was the leader of their group, a wise woman with gray hair and kind eyes. "First time seeing aliens?" she asked with a small smile. "First time seeing royal aliens," Jiwon answered. "I worked with some Krell traders before. They were casual and friendly. But these Valdari sound very formal and strict." Hyejin laughed softly. "Yes, they are very formal. Just do your job. Keep the machines working. Show them our technology when they ask. And please don't cause any problems." "I'll try my best," Jiwon said. The ship landed on Valdera Prime. The capital city rose up from the ground like mountains made of crystal. Every building caught the light and reflected it in beautiful ways. The palace in the center was the biggest building Jiwon had ever seen. It looked like someone carved a mountain from one giant diamond. Valdari officials met them at the landing area. The aliens were tall and graceful. Their skin glowed from inside with soft light. Some had blue skin, others had purple skin. Their hair moved by itself like it was alive. They wore long, flowing robes with complex patterns that hurt to look at for too long. The humans were taken to their rooms in the palace. Jiwon spent hours setting up communication equipment and checking all the systems. Everything had to work perfectly. This was the first real peace talk between humans and the Valdari Empire. One machine breaking could ruin everything. That evening, there was a big formal party in the Grand Hall. Jiwon wasn't supposed to go, but Ambassador Hyejin said all the crew should attend to show respect. He put on his best uniform and tried not to feel uncomfortable among all the important people. The Grand Hall was huge. The ceiling was so high Jiwon couldn't see the top. Hundreds of Valdari nobles stood in small groups. Their glowing skin created a sea of soft light. At the far end of the hall on a high platform sat King Theron. He looked ancient and powerful. His skin was deep blue, and his crystalline hair sparkled like stars. His golden eyes looked at everyone with confidence. Next to the king stood a young woman who took Jiwon's breath away. Her skin was soft violet that seemed to change color in the light. Her crystalline hair flowed and changed colors as she moved, turning from silver to gold to pink. Her eyes were the brightest gold Jiwon had ever seen. She wore a dress that looked like liquid light. "That's Princess Arin," whispered Captain Minho, appearing next to Jiwon. "The crown princess. She'll rule the empire someday. Don't stare. She's way out of our league." Jiwon nodded and tried to focus on the ceremony. King Theron gave a long speech in the Valdari language. A translator device in Jiwon's ear changed it to words he could understand. The king was saying that he allowed this meeting as a favor, but he still thought humans were young and unproven in the galaxy. Ambassador Hyejin gave a speech back. She was polite but firm. She reminded the Valdari that humans helped defend one of their colonies from space raiders. Humans deserved respect, not insults. After the speeches, servants brought food and drinks. The nobles started talking with each other. Jiwon stayed near the wall trying to be invisible. He was just an engineer, not a diplomat. These formal parties made him uncomfortable. Then something bad happened. One of the translation devices broke with a loud screech. The high sound echoed through the hall. Everyone stopped and stared. A Valdari noble was trying to talk with a human diplomat, but the device just made terrible noises instead of translating. Other humans rushed to fix it but couldn't figure out the problem. The noble looked offended. The human diplomat was sweating. Ambassador Hyejin walked over with a worried face. The perfect diplomatic party was falling apart because of one broken translator. Jiwon didn't think. He just walked up to the broken device, pulled out his small toolkit, and started examining it. His hands moved quickly and with confidence. In 2 minutes, he found the problem. A wire connection was loose in the power section. In 3 minutes, he fixed it completely. "There you go," he said simply, giving the device back to the surprised diplomat. It should work fine now. The noble and diplomat continued their conversation. Crisis avoided. Jiwon started walking back to his spot by the wall when a voice stopped him. That was very impressive. He turned around and found himself face to face with Princess Erin. Up close, she was even more beautiful. Her golden eyes looked at him with real interest. Just doing my job, Your Highness, Jiwon said, trying to remember the proper way to talk to royalty that Ambassador Hyejin had taught them. Most people would have panicked, Erin said. Or they would have made excuses about why it couldn't be fixed. You just fixed it, like it was easy. It wasn't easy. It was a loose power wire, Jiwon said, then immediately felt bad for being so casual with royalty. But Erin smiled. You talk to me like I'm a normal person, she said. There was something in her voice Jiwon couldn't understand. Surprise? Relief? Everyone else uses such careful words around me, like I might break if they say the wrong thing. I probably should be more careful, Jiwon admitted, but I grew up on Titan's mining colonies. We didn't use fancy words there. A broken machine is a broken machine, no matter who is watching. Erin's crystalline hair shifted to a warm pink color. I like that. Tell me, does all human technology break this easily? I heard your people are very resourceful, but maybe that's because you have to be, with such unreliable equipment. Was she teasing him? Jiwon smiled. Our equipment works just fine, thank you. It's your Valdari over-engineering that causes problems. You make everything so complicated that one loose wire brings the whole system down. Humans build things that are easy to fix because we know nothing is perfect. For a moment, Jiwon thought he went too far. But then Erin laughed. It was a real, happy sound that made her whole face light up. Several nearby nobles turned to stare in shock. Apparently, the crown princess didn't laugh often. I never thought of it that way, Erin said. We do make things complicated, don't we? Maybe that's not always smart. She looked at him with those golden eyes, and Jiwon felt something change in the air between them. What's your name? Jiwon. I'm an engineer with the diplomatic mission. Just an engineer? Is there something wrong with being an engineer? No, Erin said softly. Nothing wrong at all. It's just refreshing to meet someone who is exactly what they say they are. Nothing more. Nothing less. Before Jiwon could answer, a tall Valdari noble walked up. His skin was dark purple, almost black, and his face was cold. Princess Erin, your father wishes to speak with you. Of course, Lord Kelvin, Erin said. Her voice became formal again. She looked back at Jiwon. Thank you for fixing the translator. Perhaps we'll talk again. She walked away, her dress leaving a trail of light behind her. Lord Kelvin gave Jiwon a look of pure hate before following her. Captain Minho appeared at Jiwon's side, shaking his head. You just had a conversation with the crown princess of the Valdari Empire, he said. And you made her laugh. I can't decide if you're very brave or very stupid. Jiwon watched Erin walk back to her father on the platform. For just a moment, she looked back in his direction. Their eyes met across the crowded hall, and she smiled. It was a small, private smile just for him. Maybe both, Jiwon said quietly. He didn't know it then, but that moment would change everything. For him, for Erin, and for the whole galaxy. Because sometimes the most important things start with a simple conversation between two people who see each other not as alien and princess, not as human and royalty, but simply as themselves. The party continued late into the night. Jiwon went back to his room eventually, but he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about golden eyes and crystalline hair that changed colors. About a princess who seemed lonely even though thousands of people surrounded her. About the way she looked at him like he was someone worth talking to, not just another servant. Outside his window, Valdera Prime's 3 moons made strange shadows across the crystal city. Somewhere in this huge palace, Princess Erin was probably in her own rooms, getting ready for bed according to royal rules that had been followed for thousands of years. Neither of them knew that they were both lying awake, thinking about the same conversation, feeling the same strange connection. Neither of them knew they had just taken the first step on a path that would lead them away from everything they knew and towards something neither had dared to dream was possible. All they knew was that something had started. Something that felt important. Something that felt real. And in a life filled with duty and rules, with diplomatic talks and royal traditions, sometimes the most revolutionary thing you can find is something real. The diplomatic talks stretched from weeks into months. The negotiations moved slowly, with both sides being very careful about every word. But for Ji-won, time felt different now. Because every few days he saw Princess Erin again. At first it seemed like coincidence. She would appear in the corridor near the human rooms, walking with her attendants. She would visit the library where Ji-won sometimes went to read. She would attend demonstrations of human technology that she had no real reason to see. After the fifth coincidental meeting, Ji-won realized the truth. She was finding excuses to see him. And he was finding excuses to be in places where she might appear. Their conversations started small. She would ask questions about human culture, and he would answer. He would show her things from Earth. Music files, pictures, old books that he kept on his datapad. She absorbed everything like someone who had been hungry for new experiences all her life. "Tell me about Earth," she said one day in the palace library. They were sitting in a quiet corner far from other people. Her attendants waited by the door, pretending not to watch. "What do you want to know?" Ji-won asked. "Everything. What's it like to live on a world where you're not born into your future? Where you can choose what you become?" Ji-won thought about it. "It's not perfect. We have our own problems. But yes, most humans believe they should choose their own path. I grew up in the mining colonies. My parents wanted me to be a miner like them. But I wanted something different. So I studied, worked extra shifts to pay for school, and became an engineer." Just like that, Erin's hair shifted to a curious blue color. "You simply decided and it happened?" "It wasn't simple. It was very hard work, really hard. But it was possible. That's the important part. In human society, your birth doesn't completely decide your life." Erin was quiet for a long time. "My whole life was planned before I was born. Who I would marry, what I would study, how I would rule. Even small choices aren't really mine. My father decides everything." "That sounds lonely," Ji-won said softly. She looked at him with those golden eyes and he saw the sadness in them. "It is. I never told anyone that before, but yes, it's very lonely." After that conversation, something changed between them. The meetings became more frequent. Erin started coming to the human quarters directly, saying she wanted to learn more about human technology. Ambassador Hyejin noticed but said nothing. She was wise enough to see what was happening and smart enough to know that some things couldn't be stopped with warnings. Ji-won and Erin began meeting in the palace gardens. It was a huge space filled with plants from every world in the Valdari Empire. There were trees with silver leaves that sang in the wind, flowers that glowed in the dark, pools of water that reflected colors that didn't exist in nature. In this place, surrounded by life from 1,000 worlds, they felt safe to be themselves. "I brought you something," Ji-won said one evening. They were sitting by a pool under the light of all 3 moons. He pulled out his datapad and loaded a file. "It's music from Earth, something I think you'll like." He played her a song. It was old, from before humans went to space. A simple melody with words about love and freedom and choosing your own way. Erin listened with her eyes closed. Her crystalline hair shifted through every color of the rainbow. When the song ended, she was crying. Tears ran down her violet cheeks, glowing softly in the moonlight. "That was beautiful," she whispered. "We don't have music like that. Valdari songs are all about duty and honor and tradition. I never heard a song about choosing to be with someone just because you want to, just because it makes you happy." "Is there someone you want to be with?" Ji-won asked, though he thought he knew the answer, hoped he knew the answer. Erin looked at him. "There is now." The world seemed to stop. The garden went quiet except for the singing trees and the sound of Ji-won's heart pounding in his chest. "I'm just a human engineer," he said. "You're the crown princess of an empire. This is impossible." "I know," Erin said. I knew from the first moment we spoke, but I can't stop thinking about you, about the way you see the world, about the possibilities you represent. You make me feel like I could be someone other than just the crown princess. Like I could be Aaron. Just Aaron. I think about you all the time, Jiwon admitted. I know I shouldn't. I know this is dangerous for both of us. But I can't help it. Then don't help it, Aaron said. She reached out and took his hand. Her skin was warm and glowed slightly. I spent my whole life doing what I'm supposed to do. For once, just once, I want to do what I want to do. And what do you want? Jiwon asked, though his heart already knew. This, she said, and kissed him. It was gentle and careful and perfect. Around them, the garden flowers seemed to glow brighter. The three moons overhead cast their light on two people from different worlds, different species, who had found something that went beyond all those differences. When they finally pulled apart, Aaron's hair was bright pink, the color of joy and love. Jiwon was smiling like an idiot. They both knew this was foolish and dangerous, and possibly the worst decision either had ever made. They didn't care. From that night on, they met in secret whenever they could. The garden became their place. Jiwon would bring her things from Earth: books, music, videos of oceans and mountains and cities. Aaron would tell him stories about the Valdari, about the history of her people, about the weight of the crown she wore. My father already chose my husband, she told him one night. They were lying on the grass looking up at the stars. Lord Kelvin. It was arranged when I was young. The marriage will unite two powerful houses and strengthen the empire. Do you love him? Jiwon asked, trying to keep his voice calm. I barely know him. He's cold and cruel and only cares about power. But that doesn't matter in Valdari society. Love isn't part of marriage. Marriage is about duty and bloodlines. That's horrible. It's tradition, Aaron said sadly. Everything is tradition. The clothes I wear, the words I speak, the man I marry, the children I have. It's all decided by traditions that are thousands of years old. Sometimes I feel like I'm not even a real person, just a role that someone is playing. Jiwon turned on his side to face her. You're real to me, not the princess, not the crown, just you, Aaron. She smiled, but there were tears in her eyes. No one ever made me feel this way, like I matter as myself, not just as what I represent. You do matter, more than you know. They held each other in the dark garden under alien stars and pretended the universe was kinder than it was. That love was enough. That two people from different worlds could somehow find a way to be together. But they were being watched. Lord Kelvin had noticed the princess's strange behavior. She smiled more often. She seemed distracted during official events, and she had been seen near the human quarters multiple times. He ordered his servants to follow her, to report her movements. When they told him about the garden meetings, about the human engineer, his anger was cold and calculated. This was exactly what he needed, proof that the princess was unfit for her role. Proof that she had been corrupted by these upstart humans. He would expose her at the right moment in the most public way possible. He would humiliate her and the whole human delegation. And then, when she was broken and desperate, she would have no choice but to accept her fate and marry him. She would be his, and through her, he would control the empire. He began making plans. Meanwhile, Ambassador Hyejin confronted Jiwon in his room late one night. I know about you and the princess, she said directly. Don't try to deny it. I've been a diplomat for 30 years. I know when two people are in love. I'm sorry, Jiwon said. I didn't mean for this to happen. I believe you, Hyejin said, sitting down with a tired breath. But that doesn't change reality. Jiwon, you need to understand what you're risking. Not just for yourself, but for all of us. If King Theron finds out about this, it could destroy the peace talks. It could start a war. One human and one Valdari falling in love might seem small, but politically it's huge. I know, Jiwon said miserably. But I don't know how to stop. I don't want to stop. Does Aaron feel the same way? Yes. Hyejin was quiet for a moment. Then you both need to be very careful. And you need to decide what you're willing to sacrifice, because this won't end well unless one of you is willing to give up everything. After she left, Jiwon sat in the dark and thought about her words. Give up everything. Could he do that? Could Aaron? What would it even mean? He didn't have answers. All he knew was that when he was with Aaron, he felt complete in a way he never felt before. Like he found something he didn't even know he was looking for. Like he found home in the eyes of an alien princess from a world that didn't believe in love. The next time they met in the garden, he told her about the conversation with Ambassador Hyejin. She's right, Aaron said. This is dangerous. We should stop. Should we? Jiwon asked. Aaron looked at him for a long moment. Then she kissed him fiercely, desperately, like she was trying to memorize the feeling. No, she whispered against his lips. I can't stop. I won't stop. I don't care about the danger. I don't care about duty or tradition or any of it. I just want this. I just want you. Then we'll find a way, Jiwon promised, holding her close. Somehow we'll find a way to be together. It was a promise he had no idea how to keep. But he meant it with every part of his being, because some things were worth fighting for. Some things were worth risking everything. Love was one of those things. The three moons shone down on them. And somewhere in the palace, Lord Kelvin was finalizing his plans. Somewhere in the royal quarters, King Theron was beginning to suspect that something was wrong with his daughter. The pieces were moving into place for a confrontation that would shake the foundations of two civilizations. But in that moment, in that garden, under those alien stars, Jiwon and Aaron were simply two people in love. And that was enough. It had to be enough. Because tomorrow, everything would change. The grand ceremony was the most important event of the diplomatic season. Representatives from across the Valdari Empire had gathered to witness the formal signing of trade agreements with humanity. The Crystal Hall was packed with thousands of nobles, all dressed in their finest robes. King Theron sat on his throne looking pleased. Beside him stood Princess Erin, beautiful and composed in a dress of silver light. Jiwon stood with the human delegation, trying to ignore the sick feeling in his stomach. Something felt wrong. He tried to see Erin that morning, but her attendants turned him away. She was busy with ceremony preparations, they said. But there was something in their eyes that worried him. Ambassador Hyejin stepped forward to sign the agreements. It should have been a moment of victory. Months of talks, finally successful. A new era of cooperation between humans and Valdari. Then Lord Kelvin rose from his seat among the nobles. Your Majesty, I must interrupt these proceedings, he announced. His voice carried through the hall. I have evidence of a grave betrayal that must be addressed before we continue. King Theron's face darkened. Speak, Lord Kelvin, but this had better be important. It is, Your Majesty. It concerns your daughter. The entire hall went silent. Erin's crystalline hair flickered to a pale, frightened silver. Jiwon's heart began to pound. What about my daughter? King Theron's voice was dangerous now. Lord Kelvin gestured and servants brought forward a holographic projector. I have recordings from the palace gardens. Recordings that show Princess Erin has been secretly meeting with one of the humans, an engineer named Jiwon. The projector activated. Holographic images filled the air above the crowd. Images of Jiwon and Erin in the garden. Talking. Holding hands. Kissing. The entire hall gasped in shock and horror. Jiwon felt like someone punched him in the stomach. Beside him, Captain Minho grabbed his arm to steady him. Ambassador Hyejin's face went pale. These meetings occurred repeatedly over the past months, Lord Kelvin continued. His voice was full of false concern. Your daughter has been consorting with an alien. She brought shame upon the royal house and violated every tradition of our people. The nobles erupted in angry voices. Jiwon heard words like disgrace and betrayal and contamination. He looked up at Erin and saw that she was trembling but standing straight, her chin lifted in defiance. King Theron's face had gone from blue to almost black with rage. Is this true? He demanded of his daughter. Have you been meeting with this human? For a moment, Jiwon thought Erin might deny it, might claim the recordings were fake or taken out of context. It would be the smart thing to do, the safe thing. Instead, she looked directly at her father and said, Yes, it's true. The hall erupted again. King Theron held up a hand for silence. His golden eyes never left his daughter's face. Explain yourself. I love him, Erin said simply. Her voice was steady, but Jiwon could see her hands shaking. I love Jiwon, and he loves me. We didn't plan for this to happen. We didn't want to cause trouble. But feelings don't follow diplomatic rules. Feelings, King Theron repeated. His voice was full of contempt. You speak of feelings as if they matter more than your duty, more than the honor of our house, more than thousands of years of tradition. Perhaps they do, Erin said quietly. The king rose from his throne. The entire hall seemed to shrink back from his fury. You will renounce this human immediately. You will apologize to Lord Kelvin for this insult to your betrothal, and you will never speak to any of the humans again. Is that clear? No, Erin said. Jiwon's heart stopped. Around him, the human delegation looked terrified. Ambassador Hyejin was already calculating how to minimize the diplomatic disaster. But Jiwon only had eyes for Erin, standing alone before her father's anger. What did you say? King Theron asked dangerously. I said no, father. I will not renounce Jiwon. I will not apologize to Lord Kelvin. And I will not marry him just because it's what you decided when I was a child. Erin's hair was turning from silver to gold, the color of courage. I spent my whole life following every rule, meeting every expectation, being the perfect princess. But I learned something from the humans. I learned that individuals matter, that choice matters, that love matters. She turned to address the whole hall now. Her voice grew stronger. Our people pride themselves on being superior to humans, on being more advanced, more civilized. But in all our thousands of years of civilization, we forgot something important. We forgot what it means to be free, to choose our own paths, to love who we want to love. Silence, King Theron roared. You speak of freedom as if it's more important than duty, as if your personal happiness matters more than the Empire. Maybe it does, Erin said. Tears now ran down her glowing cheeks. Maybe individuals should matter more than empires. Maybe that's what the humans understand that we don't. They're not stronger than us or smarter than us, but they believe that every person has the right to choose their own life. And that belief makes them powerful in ways we can't understand. The hall was absolutely silent now. Every eye was on the princess and her father. Jiwon wanted to run to her, to stand beside her, but Captain Minho's grip on his arm was like iron. You leave me no choice, King Theron said. His voice was cold as ice. You will renounce this human and accept your duty, or you will be stripped of your title and exiled from Valdara forever. You will lose everything. Your crown, your home, your family, your identity as a Valdari royal. You will be nothing. Or I could be free, Erin said softly. I could be myself. Just Arryn. Not the princess, not the future queen, but just me. Maybe that's worth everything else. You're talking madness, Lord Kelvin interrupted. This is what comes from consorting with humans. They corrupted your mind with their primitive ideas. They showed me what I was missing, Erin corrected. They showed me that there's another way to live. King Theron descended from his throne and walked to stand directly in front of his daughter. When he spoke, his voice was low, but everyone in the hall heard it. I am giving you one final chance. Turn your back on the human, accept your duty, or lose everything you've ever known. Choose. For a long moment, Arryn just looked at her father. Jiwon saw the pain in her eyes, the fear, the doubt. She was being asked to give up everything she had ever known for a future that was completely uncertain, for a love that might not be enough to sustain her through exile. Then she looked across the hall and met Jiwon's eyes. He tried to send her everything he felt in that look, his love, his support, his promise that whatever she chose, he would understand. Erin took a deep breath and turned back to her father. Then I choose love. I choose freedom. I choose Jiwon. The hall exploded into chaos. Nobles shouted in outrage. King Theron's face went nearly black with fury. Lord Kelvin looked triumphant. This was even better than he hoped. The human delegation looked terrified of the political consequences. Through it all, Jiwon kept his eyes on Eren. She stood alone in the center of the storm, trembling but unbroken, having just sacrificed everything for him. King Theron's voice cut through the noise. Then you are no longer my daughter. You are no longer Princess Eren of Valdara. You are exiled from this world and all Valdari territories. You have one day to leave this planet. If you are found on any Valdari world after that, you will be arrested and imprisoned for life. He turned to the human delegation. And you will take her with you. You will leave Valdara Prime within 24 hours. These negotiations are finished. All trade agreements are void. Guards, escort the humans to their quarters and make sure they don't leave until their ship is ready to depart. Ambassador Hyejin tried to protest. Your Majesty, surely we can discuss this reasonably. There is nothing to discuss, King Theron said coldly. My former daughter made her choice. Now you will all live with the consequences. Valdari guards surrounded the human delegation. As they were being escorted out, Jiwon looked back one more time. Eren stood alone in the center of the hall, stripped of her title, abandoned by her people. But when their eyes met, she smiled through her tears. She had chosen love. Now they would have to find a way to make that choice mean something. Back in their quarters, the humans were in crisis mode. Ambassador Hyejin was trying to salvage something from the diplomatic disaster. Captain Minho was coordinating their departure. Other crew members were packing equipment and files. Jiwon sat alone in his room, his head in his hands. What had he done? Eren gave up everything for him. Her crown, her family, her whole identity. How could he possibly be worth that? How could their love be worth destroying years of diplomatic work and peace negotiations? There was a knock on his door. It was Hyejin. She's coming with us, the ambassador said directly. King Theron won't let her stay and we can't abandon her here. She'll be on our ship when we leave tomorrow. I'm sorry, Jiwon said miserably. I never meant for any of this to happen. Hyejin sighed and sat down. I know you didn't. Love isn't something you plan for. But Jiwon, you need to understand what she sacrificed for you. She gave up literally everything. Can you live with that responsibility? I don't know, Jiwon admitted. What if I'm not enough? What if she regrets this? Those are questions you'll have to answer together, Hyejin said. But right now she needs you to be strong. She needs you to be certain, because she just made the biggest decision of her life and she's going to need someone to help her believe it was the right choice. After Hyejin left, Jiwon thought about her words. Could he be strong enough? Could he be certain enough? Was their love really worth all of this? He thought about Eren's smile, about the way she laughed when he made jokes, about how she looked at him like he was the most important person in the galaxy, about her courage in standing before her father and the entire court and choosing love over duty. Yes, she was worth it. Their love was worth it. And he would spend the rest of his life making sure she never regretted her choice. In the royal quarters, King Theron sat alone in the dark. He had banished his daughter, destroyed peace negotiations with the humans, upheld the traditions of his people. So why did he feel like he lost something precious? Why did the image of Eren's tearful but defiant face keep appearing in his mind? An attendant brought him an old hologram. Eren as a child, laughing and playing before the weight of the crown had settled on her. Back when she still believed that being a princess meant freedom instead of chains. He had failed her, he realized. Not today, but years ago. He took a joyful child and turned her into a prisoner of duty and tradition. And when she finally found something that made her happy, something that made her feel free, he forced her to choose between that and everything else. She chose happiness, and he drove her away. But it was too late now. The decision was made. Tradition was upheld. The empire was preserved. He would tell himself that was enough. He would tell himself he did the right thing, and maybe in time he would even believe it. But tonight, alone in the dark, King Theron mourned the daughter he had lost. Not to exile, but to his own rigid following of traditions that suddenly seemed hollow and cruel. Tomorrow, Princess Eren would leave Valdara forever. Tomorrow she would become just Eren, with no title, no crown, no certainty of what came next. Tomorrow, everything would change. The alarm woke Jiwon before dawn. He barely slept, his mind racing with plans and fears. Today, they were leaving Valdera Prime. Today, Arin would be exiled from the only home she ever knew. And somehow, they had to make it to the ship without King Theron changing his mind and deciding that exile wasn't punishment enough. Captain Minho gathered the crew in the common area of their quarters. His face was serious. "We have a problem. King Theron ordered military ships to surround our vessel. He says it's to make sure we actually leave. But I don't trust it. Once we're in space, he could order them to fire on us, claim we kidnapped the princess or stole something, give him an excuse to destroy us and blame it on human treachery." "So what do we do?" asked Soman, the ship's best pilot. She was young and fearless, the kind of person who saw obstacles as challenges rather than barriers. "We run," Captain Minho said simply. "We get to the ship as fast as possible, get clearance for takeoff, and then we use every trick we know to get out of Valdari space before they can stop us." "What about Arin?" Jiwan asked. "Where is she?" "Being held in the Royal Detention Center," Hyejin said quietly. "She'll be released to us at the spaceport. King Theron wants to make sure she's actually leaving before he lets her go." "Then let's not waste time," Captain Minho said. "Gather your essential belongings. Leave everything else. We move in 10 minutes. The next hour was tense. Valdari guards escorted them through the Crystal Palace to waiting transport vehicles. Citizens lined the streets, watching silently as the human delegation passed. News of what happened had spread quickly. Some of the Valdari looked angry. Others looked curious. A few looked thoughtful, like they were considering what the princess's choice might mean. At the spaceport, their ship waited. It looked small and simple next to the elegant Valdari vessels around it. But it was home, and it meant safety. Jiwan had never been so happy to see anything in his life. A detention transport arrived separately. When the door opened, Arin stepped out. She looked different. Gone was the elaborate dress and jewelry. She wore simple clothes like the kind common Valdari wore. Her crystalline hair was tied back in a basic style. Without all the royal decorations, she looked younger, more vulnerable. But her golden eyes were determined. She walked toward the human ship, surrounded by guards. As she passed Jiwan, their eyes met. She gave him a small, brave smile. He wanted to reach out to her, to hold her, to tell her everything would be okay. But the guards kept them separated until they were all aboard the ship. The moment they were all inside, Captain Minho sealed the doors and rushed to the cockpit. "Soman, get us clearance to launch, now." "Already on it," Soman replied. Her fingers flew over the controls. "Valdera Tower is responding. They're granting clearance. We're clear to launch." "Then let's get out of here before they change their minds," Captain Minho said. The ship's engines roared to life. Through the viewport, Jiwan watched as Valdera Prime's crystal surface fell away beneath them. The planet that had been his home for months was disappearing, and for Arin it was goodbye forever. He found her in the passenger compartment, strapped into a seat, staring out the window at her shrinking homeworld. Tears streamed down her face, making glowing trails on her violet skin. "Hey," he said softly, sitting beside her and taking her hand. "Are you okay?" "I don't know," she whispered. "I thought I was ready. I thought I was strong enough. But actually leaving, watching my world disappear, it's harder than I imagined." "You can still change your mind," Jiwan said, though the words hurt to say. "We can turn back. You can tell your father you were wrong. You can—" "No," Arin said firmly, squeezing his hand. "I made my choice. I won't take it back. I just need a moment to grieve what I've lost." In the cockpit, alarms suddenly blared. "We've got company," Somin announced. 6 Valdari military vessels forming up around us. They're matching our path." Through the view screen, Jiwan could see the Valdari ships. They were beautiful and deadly, shaped like long crystals that caught the light from Valdera's sun. Each one was 10 times the size of the human vessel. "Are they attacking?" Captain Minho asked tensely. "Not yet, just following. Waiting for orders, I think." In the throne room on Valdera Prime, King Theron stood before a communications console. His military commander stood beside him, awaiting orders. "The human ship is leaving our atmosphere, Your Majesty. Your daughter is aboard. Do you want us to intercept?" King Theron stared at the screen, showing his daughter's face from security footage recorded earlier that day. She looked so small without her royal clothes, so alone, so afraid, yet determined. He could order the ships to fire, claim the humans kidnapped her, bring her back by force, erase this entire embarrassing incident. But then what? She would be a prisoner in her own palace, broken, resentful, forced into a marriage she didn't want with a man she didn't love. He would have his daughter back, but not really. The joyful child from the old hologram would be gone forever, replaced by an empty shell following traditions she didn't believe in. "Your Majesty?" the commander asked. "Your orders?" King Theron closed his eyes. "Let them go," he said quietly. "Sir?" "Let them go," he repeated more firmly. "My daughter made her choice. I will not force her to return. Tell the military vessels to keep distance, but not to interfere with their departure." "But, Your Majesty, the trade agreements, the diplomatic incident, are my burden to bear," King Theron interrupted. "My daughter chose love over duty. That was her right. I may not agree with her choice, but I will not punish her further for having the courage to make it. Let her go." The commander bowed and relayed the orders. On the screens, the Valdori military vessels began to fall back. Aboard the human ship, everyone held their breath as the Valdori vessels changed formation. Were they preparing to attack? Was this the end? Then the ships turned away, forming an honor guard pattern but not approaching or threatening. "They're letting us go," Soman said, in disbelief. "The lead ship just sent a message. Depart in peace. That's it. We're free to leave." Relief flooded through the ship. Ambassador Hyejin closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Captain Minho slumped in his chair. Crew members hugged each other. Jiwon looked at Aaron. She was staring out the window at the retreating Valderi ships, tears still flowing. "He let me go," she whispered. "My father. He could have stopped us, but he let me go." "Maybe he loves you more than tradition after all," Jiwon suggested gently. "Maybe," Aaron said, but she didn't sound convinced. The ship reached the edge of Valdori space. One more jump and they would be in neutral territory, safe from any change of heart by King Theron or his military. "Engaging faster than light drive," Soman announced. "Everybody hold on." The ship shuddered, and then the stars stretched into lines of light. They were jumping, leaving Valdori space, leaving Aaron's entire life behind. When the jump completed, they were alone in space. No Valdari ships, no familiar stars, just the endless dark and distant points of light. Aaron stood and walked to the viewport, pressing her hand against the glass. Behind them, invisible now, was everything she had ever known. Ahead was uncertainty, fear, but also freedom. Jiwon came to stand beside her. "I promise you," he said, "I will spend every day trying to be worth what you sacrificed." "You already are," Aaron said, turning to face him. "Don't you see? You gave me something no one else ever could. You gave me a choice. You showed me that I could be more than just my title, that I could be myself. That's worth everything I left behind." They held each other as the ship carried them away from the past and toward an uncertain future. Around them, the crew gave them space, understanding that this moment was theirs alone. In the pilot's seat, Soman plotted their course to Earth. "It's going to be a long journey," she said to Captain Minho. "About 2 months with the jumps we'll need to make." "Then we'll make the best of it," Captain Minho replied. "We've got a princess aboard who needs to learn how to live like a regular person. That should keep things interesting." He wasn't wrong. Over the following weeks, Aaron began her transformation from princess to something else. She wasn't sure what yet. Just Aaron, she kept telling herself. But who was Aaron without the title? The crew helped her figure it out. Soman taught her to play card games. Hyejin showed her how to cook human food. Jiwon taught her about engineering and let her help with ship repairs. She was clumsy at first, making mistakes that would have horrified her royal tutors. But she was learning, growing, becoming someone new. One evening, Jiwon found her in the ship's small observation room, staring at the stars. "Regretting your choice?" he asked, though he was afraid of the answer. "No," she said immediately. "I miss my home sometimes. I miss my father even though I'm angry at him. But I don't regret choosing you. I don't regret choosing freedom. I just don't know who I am anymore. I spent my whole life being Princess Erin. Without that, I feel lost. Then we'll figure out who you are together, Ji-won said, taking her hand. You don't have to have all the answers right away. You can try different things. Discover what you enjoy. Build a life based on what makes you happy instead of what you're supposed to do. Is that what humans do? That's what humans try to do, Ji-won corrected with a smile. We don't always succeed, but we believe it's worth trying. Erin leaned against him and they watched the stars together in comfortable silence. Behind them, the Valdari Empire continued without its princess. Ahead, Earth waited with all its chaos and opportunity. And on Valdara Prime, King Theron sat alone in his throne room, holding the old hologram of his daughter as a child. He had let her go. It was perhaps the most loving thing he had ever done for her, even if it broke his heart to do it. Be happy, he whispered to the empty room. Be free. Be everything I never let you be. The hologram flickered and smiled, forever young, forever joyful, forever full of possibilities. And somewhere in the dark between stars, his daughter was finding her way toward becoming that person again. Not a princess, not a symbol. Just Erin, learning what it meant to be free. The journey was far from over, but the hardest part, the choosing, the leaving, the sacrificing, was behind them. Now came the building, the discovering, the creating of something new from what was left behind. It wouldn't be easy, but nothing worth having ever was. Earth's sun looked yellow. Erin had never seen a yellow sun before. Valdara's star was blue-white, cold and distant even at its warmest. But Earth's sun was warm and golden. As their ship descended through the atmosphere, Erin felt like she was being welcomed home to a place she had never been. There it is, Ji-won said, pointing out the viewport. That's Earth. The planet was beautiful. Blue oceans covered most of its surface, with brown and green continents scattered like islands. White clouds swirled in patterns that looked almost alive. It was nothing like Valdara Prime's crystalline perfection, but it had a wild beauty that took Erin's breath away. It's perfect, she whispered. They landed at the main spaceport in what humans called Korea. Erin had studied human geography during the journey, but seeing it in person was different. The buildings were so varied. Some tall and modern, others old and traditional. There were so many people moving with purpose, laughing, arguing, living their lives without anyone telling them exactly how to do it. Welcome to Earth, Captain Minho said with a smile. Try not to get overwhelmed. It's a lot to take in. He wasn't wrong. The first few weeks were difficult for Erin. Everything was so different from Valdara. People spoke loudly and directly. They touched each other casually. Handshakes, hugs, pats on the back. Privacy was less strict. Hierarchy was less formal. It was chaos compared to the ordered perfection of her homeworld. But it was also wonderful. Erin could walk down a street without guards following her. She could go to a market and buy food without someone doing it for her. She could make mistakes without disappointing an entire empire. She could be no one special, and it was the most freeing feeling she had ever experienced. Ji-won's younger brother Junho helped her adjust. He was friendly and patient, explaining human customs and teaching her Korean phrases that weren't in the formal lessons she had studied. You're doing great, he told her one day at a street market. She had just successfully bargained for some fruit, something she had never done in her life. You barely even sound like royalty anymore. Is that good? Erin asked, unsure if it was a compliment. It's great, Junho assured her. You sound like a real person. That's what you wanted, right? Yes, Erin said, smiling as she looked at the fruit in her bag. Something she had chosen and paid for herself. That's exactly what I wanted. Ambassador Hyejin helped Erin find work as a cultural liaison between Earth's government and various alien species. It turned out that being raised as diplomatic royalty had given Erin skills that were valuable even without her title. She understood how different species thought, how to navigate complex social situations, how to find common ground between very different cultures. You're good at this, Hyejin told her, after a particularly successful negotiation between human traders and a difficult alien merchant group. You have a gift for making people feel heard and understood. I never got to use these skills on Valdera, Aaron admitted. Everything was already decided by tradition. But here I can actually help people solve problems. It feels good, like I'm making a real difference. 6 months after arriving on Earth, Jiwon and Aaron got married. It was nothing like the elaborate state wedding she would have had on Valdera. Instead, it was a simple ceremony on a beach at sunset. Just their closest friends, the sound of waves, and the warm golden light of Earth's sun. Aaron wore a simple white dress, a human tradition. Her crystalline hair was loose and shifting through happy colors as Jiwon stood beside her in a dark suit, holding her hands and smiling like he couldn't believe his luck. I don't have a kingdom to offer you, he said during his vows. I don't have wealth or power or anything impressive, but I can promise you freedom. I can promise you choice. And I can promise you love every single day for as long as we live. That's more than enough, Aaron said, tears streaming down her face. That's everything. They kissed as husband and wife while their friends cheered and the sun set over the ocean. It was perfect. It was real. It was theirs. But their story didn't stay small and private for long. Word spread across the galaxy about the Valdari princess, who had given up her crown for love with a human. Some saw it as a scandal. Others saw it as romantic. But young people, especially young Valdari, saw it as something else. Proof that change was possible. On Valdera Prime, Princess Vera, Aaron's younger cousin and now the heir to the throne, received a secret message from Aaron. They had been close as children, and Vera had been devastated when Aaron was exiled. But now, reading about her cousin's new life on Earth, Vera felt something unexpected. Hope. Aaron wrote about choosing your own path, about making decisions based on what made you happy rather than what you were supposed to do, about love and freedom and the courage to be yourself. Vera read the message over and over. She was being prepared to take the throne eventually, being groomed to be the perfect traditional ruler. But was that what she wanted? Or was it just what everyone expected? She started asking questions. Quietly at first, then more boldly. Why did marriages have to be arranged? Why couldn't individuals choose their professions? Why did birth determine everything? Her tutors were horrified. Her advisors warned her to stop such dangerous thinking. But Vera persisted. She wasn't ready to exile herself like Aaron had. But she could start small. She could plant seeds of change that might grow into something larger. Young Valdari across the Empire heard Aaron's story and started asking their own questions. It wasn't a revolution, not yet. But it was a beginning. A stirring of possibility that hadn't existed before. On Earth, Jiwon and Aaron were building a life together. They moved to a new colony world called Haven, a place where humans and various alien species lived together in a carefully planned community. It was an experiment in cooperation and diversity, and it needed people who understood both human and alien perspectives. Aaron loved it. She helped design cultural exchange programs. She mediated disputes between different species. She taught human children about Valdari art and Valdari children, whose families had quietly moved away from the Empire, about Earth's history. She was useful, she was valued, she was happy. One evening, a year after arriving on Haven, Aaron discovered she was pregnant. The medical scanners confirmed it. She was carrying the first human Valdari hybrid child in history. Are you scared? Jiwon asked, holding her as they looked at the medical results. Terrified, Aaron admitted, but also excited. Our child will belong to both our worlds. They won't be bound by Valdari traditions or human expectations. They can choose who they want to be. That's what you wanted, isn't it? Freedom of choice? Yes, Aaron said, placing a hand on her stomach where their child was growing. That's exactly what I wanted. Not just for me, but for everyone. Starting with our baby. News of the pregnancy spread across the galaxy. Some Valdari were horrified, calling it contamination of their pure bloodline. But others were curious, even supportive. What would a child of two species be like? What possibilities might they represent? Ambassador Taijin, who had taken over diplomatic relations with the Valdari Empire, reported that things were slowly changing. Trade negotiations had resumed. Cultural exchanges were being discussed. King Theron was still cold toward anything related to humans, but he couldn't completely isolate his empire from the galaxy anymore. His people were too curious. And then, unexpectedly, a message arrived for Aaron. It came through official diplomatic channels, marked with the royal seal of Valdera. Her hands shook as she opened it. It was from her father. The message was brief and formal, the way King Theron spoke about everything. "Daughter, I heard of your pregnancy. I do not approve of your choices. I still believe you abandoned your duty and brought shame to our house. But you are carrying my grandchild, the first of their kind. I want you to know that if you ever need anything for the child's health or education, it will be provided. I may disagree with your decisions, but I will not punish an innocent child for them. Live well. Be happy if you can. You were always braver than I was willing to admit." It was not forgiveness exactly, not reconciliation. But it was something, an acknowledgement, a door left slightly open. Aaron cried when she read it, and Jiwon held her while she wept for the father she had lost and the small piece of him she had just gotten back. "He's trying," Jiwon said gently. "In his own way, he's trying." "I know," Aaron whispered. "Maybe someday we can rebuild what we lost. Maybe our child will be the bridge between our peoples." 6 months later, Aaron gave birth to a daughter. She had violet skin like her mother, but darker, more like a twilight sky. Her eyes were golden with flecks of brown. Her hair was soft and dark, but sparkled slightly in certain lights, as if someone had woven stardust through it. They named her Hana, a Korean name meaning flower, because she was something new and beautiful, growing in a place where two different worlds met. Holding Hana for the first time, Aaron thought about everything she had given up. Her crown, her home, her family, her entire identity as Princess of Valdera. Had it been worth it? She looked at her daughter's tiny face, peaceful in sleep. She looked at Ji-won beside her, exhausted but smiling. She thought about the life they had built, small and simple but entirely their own. She thought about the young Valdari who were starting to ask questions because of her example. She thought about her father's message, grudging but not cruel. She thought about Princess Vera, who wrote that she was planning small reforms when she took the throne, inspired by her cousin's courage. Yes, it had been worth it. Every painful moment, every sacrifice, every tear. Because she had proven something important. That individuals matter. That choice matters. That love matters more than duty to systems that don't serve the people they're supposed to protect. One act of courage, one choice to follow her heart. And the ripples were spreading across the galaxy, slowly changing how people thought about tradition and duty and freedom. Outside their window, Haven's sun was setting. It wasn't Valdera's blue-white star or Earth's golden sun, but something in between. A warm orange light that represented what this colony was. A place where different worlds came together to create something new. "What are you thinking about?" Ji-won asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. "I was taught that my highest duty was to my throne and my bloodline," Aaron said, quietly, looking down at Hana. "But I learned that sometimes the highest duty is to yourself. To love. To showing others that there's more than one way to live. I gave up a kingdom, but I gained a universe of possibilities." "Any regrets?" Ji-won asked, though he asked gently, prepared for whatever answer she gave. Aaron looked at him. This man who had shown her what freedom felt like, who had loved her for who she was rather than what she represented, who had helped her find the courage to choose herself. "Not one," she said firmly. "Not a single one." Years later, when Hana was old enough to understand, Aaron would tell her daughter about Valdera Prime, about crystalline palaces and 3 moons and traditions that stretched back thousands of years, about a princess who gave up everything for love, about a king who let his daughter go because some things matter more than tradition. And Hana would grow up knowing that she could be whatever she chose to be. Not bound by Valdari expectations or human limitations, but free to forge her own path through the galaxy. That was Aaron's true legacy, not the crown she gave up, but the freedom she fought for. Not just for herself, but for everyone who came after her. On Valdera Prime, King Theron kept a new hologram in his private chambers. Not the old one of Aaron as a joyful child, but a new one that had been sent through diplomatic channels. Aaron, Jiwon, and baby Hana, smiling together in front of Haven's orange sunset. He looked at it often when no one else was watching. His daughter had disobeyed him, abandoned her duty, broken traditions, and she looked happier than he had ever seen her. Maybe, he thought in his most private moments, that was its own kind of victory. Maybe letting her go had been the most important thing he had ever done as a father, even if it meant failing as a king. The galaxy kept turning. Civilizations rose and fell. But in the space between stars, small acts of courage kept changing the course of history. Because that's what humans do. They believe in impossible things. They fight for the right to choose their own paths. They inspire others to believe that change is possible. And sometimes when they're very lucky, they teach alien princesses that love is worth fighting for, that freedom is worth sacrificing for, that individuals matter more than empires. One princess chose love instead of royal duty, and even the king couldn't stop her. But in the end, maybe he didn't want to, because love, it turns out, is the most powerful force in any galaxy. It crosses species boundaries, defies traditions, and changes the world. One brave choice at a time, and that's a legacy worth more than any crown.